Okay, so we're live on YouTube. Nice, that's good. Okay. Okay. So today we'll be looking further into the Tattva board and looking into the intellect and also the self. So there's going to be quite a bit we're going to discuss and we're going to discover together, and then I'll answer questions and in between. So, which is good. I'm looking forward to it. So, without further ado, let's start. And if you're on TikTok, you can join me on YouTube. I'm speaking there live, and I will be speaking directly on YouTube, and I'll be answering comments there. So, my YouTube is on my profile. You can just join and I'll see you there. So, the Tattva board. So, non duality is really important. When it comes to understanding non duality, good to see you, Martin. Nice to have you back here again. The main thing about non duality is understanding, first and foremost, that you need a strong foundation. Without this strong foundation of wisdom and knowledge, these foundational texts that help us understand Advaita effectively, that is required. Without this, we cannot move further. We cannot go any further. What can happen is a pseudo understanding. So, one of the things that I decided to do when I decided to come back on doing lives was to ensure that we with the foundational text, because as long as you're on my YouTube, or you've been listening to my podcast, you kind of do get the foundational knowledge there too. I don't just go straight into the high level stuff. I kind of get people to go up and up to that level throughout the whole podcast. Now, and I do define certain things so everyone can grasp it. That is the most important thing to do. And you will see that most of the best non-dual teachers like Swami Sarvapriyananda or Rupert Spira or anyone like that, even Francis Lucille, there's so many of them where and even on TikTok, there's quite a few. Even on YouTube, there's quite a few. There's, Nish the Fish, who's a great TikToker, Yam Socks. There's so many great people who understand non-duality. My friend that was on the live the other day, Sami Vada, he's someone who understands this very well and on a much deeper level. So that is something that we can. So it's these people allow you to understand the foundation and they have that knowledge. Now, I say this with the caveat knowing that there's a lot of people on TikTok and even more so on YouTube who are bringing out this non-dual wisdom, but they lack the foundational wisdom. They lack the foundation. They just go straight to the self and they expect you to stay there. What happens is you are literally hanging by a thin thread. And the moment you realize that actually there is a relative reality out here that is real, you are very close to falling down into a massive pit. And you realize, and what tends to happen is these people, when they say there's no teaching, no self, no body here, uh, this is simply it, or whatever they use as their catchphrase, what will happen there is we lose focus, we lose our all that learning, all that time that we spent listening to these seminars and going to these seminars, watching these talks on YouTube. We realize it's all becoming a big waste of time. And what tends to happen is this then groups all non-duality under the same brush, that, oh, it means that the non-dual philosophy is wrong. No, these people are not following what Ramana Maharishi taught, and they all claim somewhere or another that there is a lineage from Ramana Maharishi. Ramana Maharishi believed in the foundations and, in fact, emphasized the foundations. So anyone that believes anything otherwise or prescribes anything otherwise of Ramana Maharishi is completely wrong. So, in my opinion, it's very important that we understand the foundation. So, what I'll be doing on my lives more so is going over the foundations, and therefore, hopefully, we can understand things on a deeper level. So, when you do approach these neo Advaitas or the pseudo non-dual folk on or people on TikTok or on YouTube, you're able to address their questions or their vitriol. Although they write massive essays, trust me, I know. I did a reaction video to Jim Newman's, and it was completely like it was crazy. The amount of stuff they write, it's like essays, and it means nothing. Like literally means nothing. It's just a bunch of nonsense. So and if you want to be entertained, you can take a look on it's a video on my the Bearded Mystic Reacts. So the other good thing is that now I have moved my office to upstairs, so I now have two screens. So what will happen eventually is we're gonna do reaction videos. So I'm gonna have to probably try it out, but yeah, I'll do it probably another time, and we can do a live reaction. So, right. So, what's this person on TikTok saying? It's famous TikToker. Okay. Implication is more important than knowledge. Do you mean application is more important than knowledge? And then stop reading out something you wrote and be genuine. I'm not reading out something. I am literally talking on YouTube and then TikTok, YouTube, TikTok. I have nothing in front of me. I am going to read a text in a minute, but this is me being genuine. Famous TikToker. Interesting. So, hey Martin, there is nobody here is another useful catchphrase. It is. It's an absolutely useful catchphrase. Jim Newman and Sam Harris's videos are also highly entertaining, somewhat painful to watch though. Absolutely, Martin. I remember watching that and it was crazy. The other thing I will say is I also listened to Sam Harris and Rupert Spira's talk. Sam Harris did not understand what Rupert was saying, and but it seemed like they were talking about the same thing, but Sam Harris just wasn't accepting it at the time. But yeah, totally agree. What publication Vedanta book you read? So I do read. I like the Ramakrishna Mission's books, even the Chinmayananda Mission books. I just tend to have a look. I don't have any particular favorites, but with the Ramakrishna Mission or any or Chinmayananda Mission, I do know that there is a lineage there. There's They hold themselves accountable. So that's what I tend to look at. So, but there's independent people that I like as well. So it's not necessarily um, uh, just kind of one particular group. Do you know Sanskrit? I know words here and there. I can't read it, but I know words here and there, like what they may mean. But no, not fluently, if I'm honest with you. That's why I have to use English translations. And that's why also I read quite a few translations, mainly with commentary. So then I can understand the teachings more better and therefore, you know, share it if and then share the teachings. If you're watching this on YouTube, as you are watching it on YouTube, do like this video and keep commenting, keep giving me questions. We'll now move to do like this we will move to uh more of the we'll move to the text now. So, do share this with anyone that you know is interested in these matters, that loves non duality and wants to strengthen their understanding of non duality. This is their type of conversation. I have a cup of tea. If you haven't got a cup of tea, go get a cup of tea quickly before we start, or get a coffee or get a drink, and we will continue in a second. But just to recap from yesterday's kind of live session, I just wanted to let you know that we looked at the different types of like senses, the sense objects. Today we're going to look at the three types of intellect and also the five wrappers, five sheets, you could say. So we're going a bit into that, and then we're going to go on to the self. So my plan is to talk about the self today. That is the intention. And this is the knowledge that you can use against the pseudo non-dual people that are heavy on YouTube. And I also have another announcement. I've got to probably wait until it's announced, but I will be live, not on my channel on Thursday, but on someone else's channel. An ex-Muslim, but he's really nice, really friendly guy, and yeah. So I'm just waiting for the official announcement to be made. So yeah. So if you just joined, do like this. Do like this stream? It helps me with the algorithm, and when you comment or like something or you know do write it out, and I will also post some of the stuff that I really like on here. So let's start then. Let's begin. Okay, right. If this chooses to work for me. Okay. And you see these foundational texts as well, they they are not they're not heavy. Like they're really light reads, so you can read them in a day. Like we could read Tattva board in a day if we wanted to, but because we explain it, we discuss it, we have a nice little debate about it. Therefore, we can go further. We take longer, but to be honest, if you just read Tattva board from start to end, it'll take you less than a day. Probably even less than an hour, to be honest, or 2 hours. I was just thinking that Neo Advaita should be renamed to Anti-Advaita. Yeah, I think, yeah, you missed the A in between, but it is Anti-Advaita in a really weird way. Yeah, and Anti-Dvaita as well, like really anti-duality. Like Advaita still, it doesn't dislike duality. And this is the interesting thing, right? Advaita doesn't have anything against duality. It sees the value of duality. whilst Neo-Advaita sees no purpose for duality, and that is what makes it real bad, and that's what makes it really kind of, and that's what makes it so one-sided. So it's, yeah, can we really call it anywhere near Advaita? I don't know. But yeah, it's really, really funny stuff. So let's begin then with Tattva board. And if it's your first time on this channel, welcome, and nice to have you here. And I hope you enjoy the content. So, the 3 states of intellect. We live our lives by superimposing our intellect on top of ourself. These are the 3 states of intellect which we assume to be in ourselves. So now we are getting to the point where we've utilized our intellect. We now have sharpened the intellect for discernment, but we have to go beyond there. We have to go beyond this now. So this is what we can't think that the discernment or that wisdom is what we are, meaning, or the wisdom or the knowledge of the real and unreal. What we are is the real. Yeah. So we're not the knowledge of the real and unreal. We are the real, the permanent, not the permanent and temporary, the knowledge of the permanent and temporary. Nitya and Anitya. So the 3 modes. What are the 3 states of intellect? The 3 states of the intellect are waking, dream, and deep sleep. So as the Atma, we remain as a witness of the changes in intellect during these 3 states. If we can somehow observe ourselves distinctly or without from these states, we become free from them. So the whole intention is, I remember once we talked about whether we can observe ourselves in deep sleep, whether it's possible. It's absolutely possible. According to this, the whole point is to try and remain as the observer and the witness, even when we are falling asleep. So we can do it in the waking state, obviously. We can even do it in the dream state. When we're lucid dreaming, there is a certain awareness, a certain witnessing going on. The next thing is to go in deep sleep and become aware. And that happens, Osho described it as, you have to be aware as you fall asleep. So normally when we fall asleep, we do not remain aware. But the more we practice it, the more aware we become, the more alert we become, and the more we may watch the turning as we go from wakefulness to deep sleep or to sleep itself. Okay, so just got a message on TikTok. Hazy, you got COVID. Oh, okay. I do pray for you. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and if you haven't got the vaccine, take the vaccine. It'll help you. Once you get over this. But I pray that you get a speedy recovery, and and that you have people around you that can give you food and stuff. So just stay safe. So yes. So now let's see the characteristics of these states one by one. What is the state of waking? The state in which one knows the experience of sound, etc., through their sense organs like ears, is the state of waking. So any sense, taste, smell, obviously hearing and sound, sight or light, taste or touch, all those things. It happens in the state of waking. We do everything through our senses. The way we take in information from the world is through our senses. If our senses is clear, we see the infinite, as William Blake said. But if our senses of perception is not clear, the doors of perception are not clear, then we see things with, you could say, fog or mist, therefore not clear, therefore distorted. And whatever is distorted means we're not seeing reality as it is. And the whole point of spirituality is to see reality as it is. Advaita is about seeing reality directly as it is, which is pure awareness, but it's through the clarity of the senses. But when the self identifies itself with the gross body, or the universal self is called the world. So instead of just seeing ourselves, so if we think we are this body, we understand we're connected to the world, and our expansiveness just expands to the world and nothing more than that. So that's where the issue also lies. So we only see the world, the Prithvi, as everything. So then what is the state of dreaming? Whatever is seen or heard in the state of waking gives its impressions during the time of sleep. The world that appears during sleep constitutes the state of dreaming. When self identifies itself with the subtle body, it is called tejas or radiant. So again, you could say it's more of a lighter body. When people talk, I really hate this, but like, the those people who talk about let's manifest the light and love. Those people, um, eh, what what they do, they have access to the subtle body, but the problem is they get stuck on the subtle body. They don't understand that there's more than that. So they see themselves as just light workers or whatever they term themselves to be. Now, those people, what they're not understanding is that although yes, they have gone beyond the gross level, they now have gone on to the more they've now gone on to the more subtle level, but now it's just standard um kind of, but it's just a new body that they've acquired, a new identification to something. So whatever impressions they get in this state, they seem to adopt that. But one thing I will say, and it's a nice little example to use of Ashtavakra, sorry, not Ashtavakra, of Raja Janak. And Raja Janak, he's famous for being in the Ashtavakra Gita. And in there, there's a story of Raja Janak when he wakes up from a dream and he asks the question that and he wakes up and all his attendants come to him and he asks, is that real or is this real? So is the dream real, the dream state real, where he had a dream that he was a beggar, he lost his kingdom, and he felt it was very real to him. He woke up in a sweat and he felt like he was being attacked by his villagers. But when he woke up, he saw his attendants there. They all, looked after him. He was being praised. Um, he went to the courtyard and he saw his people, his countrymen. They all loved him. They all were hailing his name. So then he asked the question, well, is that real or is this real? So is the dream real or is this waking reality real? And obviously the answer is beyond both. They're both of them are real and unreal on a deeper level. So, and also we have to remember that whatever we think about during the day has its impressions at night. So sometimes we may find that whatever we are thinking about during the day, we end up dreaming about it in the night. And because we're dreaming about it in the night, it then leaves impressions for the next day. Sometimes people are trying to find out what their dreams mean and they want to understand what their dreams meant to them. And therefore, all that happens is they just stay in that cycle and they start interpreting their dreams, and instead of seeking liberation, there's 4 prerequisites, there's 4 reasons. They lose the intention for liberation because all they're doing is interpreting their dreams, which is another another layer of, you could say, is just a sub reality. It's not reality. You could say actually that our waking state deep sleep, and even dreams are just sub realities of the main reality. It's not the complete reality of Brahman or the ultimate reality, but rather a sub reality is our waking state. That is how Advaita would see it as, actually. Like you have a heading and then you have the subheading. So that's what it is. But yeah. So the radiant form in dreams. And then we'll look at deep sleep, then I'll look at comments after that. So thank you, Sue, for the likes. Now, what is the state of deep sleep? I do not know anything whatsoever. I experienced the pleasure of sleep. The state in which the experience is thus is called deep sleep. When self identifies itself with the causal body, it is called pragya, or nearly ignorant. Very interesting words, nearly ignorant. So, this is another way to approach reality in which we consider ourselves to be different from the states of intellect. These come and go, but we remain untouched by them. When we stop identifying ourselves by our intellect, we become free of its limitations. So, yes, it's important to strengthen our discernment and clear and clean and bring clarity to our intellect. Very important, but eventually we have to move beyond the intellect. So we have to move beyond the waking state, the dream state, and the deep sleep state, and understand that these are not our true self. That is not who we really are. So that's this. That's the three states of intellect. And the next one we're going to be looking at now is the five wrappers, or I believe the five sheets, um, the five goshas as we know them to be. So let's have a look at the comments. Yeah, I put Dvaita deliberately. I think Advaita is not two yet, and Dvaita is two. Yeah. I agree. I am Brahman means I am same one from Paramatic Drishti, the ultimate view, but from Vyavadic Drishti, I'm a devotee of my Ishta Devta. That is a very beautiful explanation. Very true also on a devotion level. And I actually agree with this, by the way, with this definition. So I agree. We have to be, as Advaitins, as non-dualists, are um, we are able to see things from two levels, and not that there are actually two levels. It is what it is. We understand that there's a relative reality and we have to transact with everything. For example, if I'm to drink this cup of tea, I have to, it's very real for me. For me to say, oh, it's unreal, it's not going to help. So yes, we have to understand that we have two drishtis. I really like that, two views. Paramatic, the ultimate level, is of Brahman. I am the self. I am this formless awareness that is boundless. And then at the same time, we are at the Vyavadic level, devotees. Beautiful way to explain this is Hanumanji, when he says that, when I'm in oneness, me and Ram are one. But when I'm in duality, then me and Ram are different. I forgot the exact words, but the whole emphasis was there are two things that are happening simultaneously. So Maya is not existence, neither it is non-existence, neither both of it. It is unquestionable. Absolutely, I love this. This is the key. And even Brahman is the same. Brahman is neither existence nor non-existence. And yet it is the only thing real. So it's really interesting. Oh, TikTok Panditji, I know who this is now. Yes, Jai Ho to you too, brother. Nice to see you on here. Ah, absolutely amazing. And yes, it's nice to see that you've come onto the live on YouTube. I'm doing both simultaneously on YouTube um and on TikTok, but more so answering my questions on YouTube. Thank you for joining. Um, it's always nice to have you here, brother Rakeshji. But if you're following me on here, but um, if you know me from TikTok, on TikTok, he is known as TikTok Pundit. One, he's a great musician, and two, he gives great sermons on what mantras mean, on certain aspects of devotion. It's very important for us to understand the reason why we do things in Hinduism. So um, do follow Rakeshji, and give him your love on TikTok too. So the five rappers now we're gonna go to, not rappers as in like Eminem and Tupac, but rappers as in a street rapper or candy rapper. The Sheets, the Gorshas. Um, so um, so yeah. So yeah, if you're on TikTok, come join me on YouTube. I am more or less answering questions there. So if you have a question here, I'm not really going to answer it. I'm going to answer it on YouTube. So and if you've so that'd be really great if you can join me on there. So let's go on to the five Gorshas, the Bunj Gorshas. Yeah. So let us see another viewpoint that can help us in knowing the reality. What are those layers through which our real identity is hidden from us? Because that's the main thing. At the moment, we have not understood fully or assimilated the knowledge that we are Brahman, that we are the self, that we are this formless awareness. We've still not been able to um, understand this. So now we're going to go further into it, a bit more with a bit more depth. No problem, Sue. No problem. Um, I I'm just glad that you're able to listen somehow. Um, so the five koshas. So what are they? So you first have the Annamaya kosha, which is a layer created due to eating of food. Then you have Pranamaya kosha, which is the air, the life breath. Manomaya kosha, which is composed of the mind. Then you have Vigyan Maya, which is intellect. Then you have Anandamaya kosha, which is the the layer of bliss. Um, so those are the five coverings. Those are the five layers. You could say um, the five uh, peels. You know, like how you peel an onion. Those are the five peels that surround the real self. So so that's what we know. Now we're gonna go into what these five things are. And then once I've answered this, then we're gonna go to questions. And then so yeah. So if you have questions about this, make sure you write it down. If you just joined, like this YouTube live or like it on TikTok. Helps me with the algorithm. So yes, what is the layer composed of food? That which comes into existence due to eating of food, grows by food, and gets merged in the earth, which is a form of food, is the layer composed of food. It is the same as this physical body. So if you think about it, this body is made from food. Very easy to understand. We can all kind of grasp that as well. It's not that deep. So we can visually see that this is everything that we eat or drink eventually becomes our body. And whatever is not needed by the body is then provided through waste. So, whatever you eat becomes you. very easy. We can understand and see that. What is the layer composed of prana, the vital airs? So the layer of vital airs is composed of 5 pranas, which is prana, apana, vyana, udana, and samana, and 5 sense organs like speech, etc. So just as in the previous layer, which was constituted by skin and flesh and bones, this layer is air in nature and is composed by the 5 pranas. This layer takes care of our internal body activities like digestion and etc., circulation of the blood. All this is done by prana. Without prana, we would not be able to function. So even in fact, it is said in Hinduism that in Dharma that it's only when the prana enters the womb is, and it's normally during the 8th month, I think, where they say the child is then alive. So according to um Dharma, is normally on the 8th month, I think, if I'm not wrong. But that's when they consider when the jeev enters is when the pran is literally revitalizing the body. So, what is the layer composed of mind? That which is formed by a combination of mind and 5 sense organs is called the layer of mind. So that is like our thoughts, and our thoughts are and emotions are influenced by our 5 senses. So whatever our sense organs download into our mind is what thoughts we tend to have. That's why it's very important. Prana is not the soul. Prana is the life force, the life breath, you could say. Without prana, we wouldn't be alive right now. So normally so it's interesting. Actually, the jeev never leaves straight away, according to me. My understanding is that the moment somebody dies is when the prana leaves the body. Without the prana, then you have multiple organ failure, because it's prana that gives um, life to the organs of the body. So, if you think about it, the two prana and the first layer, which was of the body, Annamaya Kosha and Pranamaya Kosha, those things are, so you could say they support. Okay, let me put it this way. Annamaya Kosha is very gross level. Remember, we looked at the 3 states before. One was gross level. Then you have subtle, which is Pranamaya Kosha. And I would even say Manomaya Kosha is also subtle level too. So again, remember, everything that you take from your senses becomes your thoughts, becomes your intentions, becomes your karma. So that's why it's really important that we are able to use our intellect when it comes to seeing the world, perceiving the world, taking in information of the world, and then seeing through it clearly. This is most important. Then the next one is the layer composed of intellect. So this is formed by a combination of intellect and the 5 sense organs, and that's what it is. So this layer defines our decision-making system based on previous experiences and associated learning. So whatever we learn is whatever we experience in life is what helps us decide things. But again, this is another level of the subtle body. So the Vigyan Maya Kosha. So we know that that is still subtle. Then we have the layer of bliss. The layer of bliss, that which is formed by the causal body, exists within ignorance, has the nature of impure sattva, and knows the instincts such as pleasure. That is the layer of bliss. So these are the 5 layers on the self, and this layer defines our instincts and experience of pleasure and pain, or the pairs of opposites. So let's put it this way, that even though we feel bliss, I would use the word happiness instead of bliss, because bliss is uncreated. But you know, when you feel happy after having a meal, or happy when you've had something go your way, that type of thing is the causal body. That it's a false sense of happiness that doesn't last long. Hari Om to you too. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Jay, okay, nice question. If you're devoted, does that mean you're devoted to yourself? Okay, you're talking about, if I'm understanding you correctly, Jay, if you understand that you're a Brahman, are you devoted to yourself? That will still imply there is a subtle duality. So it's not necessarily that you're devoted to yourself. You are devoted to the self. And the self is everywhere and in everything. Therefore, what you're devoted to is everything. Because everything is then you. But I don't think the self needs to be devoted to anything. If you think about this, does the formless awareness need devotion? Does the formless awareness require worship of any kind? Does the formless awareness require prayer of any kind? Does it need to be praised? No, it doesn't need any of that. The formless awareness is complete in itself. So that's one level. If we understand your question a bit further and we say, if you're devoted, so if you're in devotion, if you have bhakti, is that bhakti towards yourself? Essentially, yes. Even though you're looking at a murti, or you're looking at a guru or someone that you worship, an ishtevta, as Satyam Mind Nectar talked about, I think. Let me see. I think it was. But that when you have the ishtevta, that is still who you are. So essentially, eventually, you get to that. But yeah, it's a long answer, but I hope I answered it. And if not, just let me know if you have a follow up to this, because I have to answer TikTok, and then I'm going to come back to this. So Jay, is prana the soul? It's not the soul; it's just the life breath. The thing that's called the soul, if there's anything, it's called the Jeev. The Jeev, Jiva, or Jeeva, depends on how you want to spell it. But that tends to be what is defined as the spirit or the soul. That's the one that goes from one life to another. The Atma is Brahman. And even Adi Shankaraji, who is the writer of Tattva board that we're looking at today, even he says the Jeev is the same as Brahman. So essentially everything is Brahman. Yeah, even Maya. So we've now done the 5 sheets, the 5 koshas. So yes, if you just joined me on YouTube, do like this live. That'd be really kind of you and really nice. So I see I've got some questions on TikTok. Okay. Can I ask a question? Of course you can. Are there prophets in Hinduism, and what did they do if they existed? We don't have prophets the way it's seen as in the Abrahamic religions. We don't have prophets like that, where they come out and they say they are the only ones, and that's it. What we do follow is we have inspiration. So you could say there are certain avatars like Ram and Krishna that come on the earth, just to inspire us. That's all they do. But yeah. And then the thing is, oh, your comment is one thing I like about you, brother, is that you take Hinduism seriously and is a real Hindu. Love it. Thank you. Thank you for that recognition. But yeah, there's no prophets like in the Abrahamic sense. Um, I'm not saying that people haven't adopted that level, that way of thinking. They have, and I don't like it. I don't think a lot of us like it, to be honest. We are against that way of thinking. We do not see Krishna as Christ or an equivalent, and we don't see Ram in the same way. We just respect them for the teachings they gave, and we try to practice those teachings. That's the ultimate thing, is about practicing the teachings. There's no point um, praising someone or something if you're not going to become it, if you're not going to take in the message and practice it and see that it's real. But just chanting mantras is not enough. Or reading stories about, reading narratives of these prophets or avatars or whatever we want to call them is not enough for us. For us, what's more important is that you become the teachings. You are the living embodiment of the teachings. That's what matters. Um, so I see. So who's God? Brahman or all of them are the gods? So the question is very simple. We only have Brahman. We see the many in the one, and the one is Brahman. So essentially everything is Brahman. But these devas do have a very important part to play in the universe and the planets, and they are just the elements of nature that we give back to, that we should ought to give back to. The earth provides us with food. We should be giving back to the earth instead of sabotaging it. Same thing with the air. Instead of polluting the air, we should look at cleaner ways of energy. Those are the things. If we are and in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna gives a very stark warning that if we do not look after the elements of nature, we will be in trouble. There will be imbalance, and it can even lead to extinction, because essentially that is what's being mentioned and hinted upon, that there could be an extinction of humans because of the lack of intelligence that is used. So and in Hinduism, the very beautiful aspect of Hinduism is that God isn't the main subject. You yourself is the main subject, and that is the key. The other is not the key, whether the other is God or an avatar or whatever. The main subject is always yourself. Because even if you say there is a God that exists, it is you that is saying it. Therefore, who's bigger, God or you? You, because you're declaring God is true. So instead of going towards the other, go within and just concentrate on that. There's no arrogance with this. This understanding only brings humility, because there's no way you're going to hurt another person or disturb another person. So yeah, that's the key. So you said you have inspirations. So who's the God you would say you worship? I worship nothing. I don't worship anything other than the self, that formless awareness, which is myself. So I don't have an other that I believe in. There is no other for me to believe in. So there is no God for me to believe in or worship, because this God doesn't need worship. If it needs worship, it has a superiority complex. So why would you worship that? Why would you? And if this God becomes jealous and has to tell you to worship it, it's got an ego problem. Because again, if a human being said the very same things, we will say that that human being is arrogant. So why is it that when we see certain gods say this, that we do not see the same arrogance? We have to use the same logic everywhere. We can't just define what is human and godly in two different ways. That just does not work. It doesn't work at all, in my opinion. But yeah, there's no God that I worship that is separate to me. And when I say separate to me, I mean separate to each and every person, you know? Do you think that Abrahamic traditions measure up to Dharma traditions when it comes to liberation from? I'm going to move up a bit. From the cycle of birth and death. This is actually a very good question. Thank you, Dimitri, for this question. I really like it. I'm gonna contemplate on this question for a bit, and I'm gonna answer it in a few minutes. I think it's a really, really wonderful question. So my first answer is no. Abrahamic traditions do not come close to the Dharmic traditions at all. They come nowhere near the Dharmic traditions. And I'm talking about this objectively rather than with. I'm looking at it in terms of how much philosophy can take you, in terms of your understanding and your and the depth that you can have from those traditions. I'm not saying that Abrahamic traditions do not have great thinkers. They do. They have great philosophers. Absolutely. Even I like the teachings of Christ. Some of the mystics from there, like Meister Eckhart or so many of them, Saint Teresa or Saint John of the Cross. You know, Christ himself, the Sufis, Rumi, Hafiz. They all have but the thing is, with those people I just mentioned, they're more aligned to the dharmic traditions than they are to their own traditions that they belong to, which is really weird, but that's what happens. That's what I found. But when it comes to liberation from the cycle of birth and death, in my opinion, only the dharmic religions or traditions speak on this matter directly, because the Abrahamic religions or traditions, they tend to just say, well, there's a heaven and that's it. Or there may be a middle ground. I think there's a state in between, but even then, like, the eventual goal is heaven or hell. And but for me, as I've mentioned before, I've not seen any proof of there being a heaven or a hell. I have not seen any physical evidence that there is a hell, or that there is a heaven. There's no sign of it. It's not seen anywhere. So why should I believe in it? But with liberation from the cycle of birth and death, I'm more inclined with that because I can do it while I'm alive. You see what I mean? The difference is, the fact is, the liberation from cycle of birth and death can happen while I'm alive, not when I die alone. I can do it while I'm alive. And isn't that the most beautiful thing? So, and when it comes to reincarnation, which is this comment, which I agree with, but reincarnation for me has more. I'm more inclined to believe in reincarnation because I feel there is residues from other lives. There's certain vasanas or conditionings that you have, which clearly there is some impact of previous lives. So that's what I believe. But yeah, if you dismiss reincarnation, nothing. I mean, there are Hindus that also dismiss reincarnation too, um, and in fact, on the ultimate level of Advaita, yeah, even we would, yeah, because we will say, yeah, there's no liberation because there's no reincarnation. There is in fact no incarnation at all on the ultimate level. But it does not help us to explain what's happening on the interactive level that we're on right now, this relative level. So that's where reincarnation, I feel, is a better explanation than saying, well, we have one life. Well, okay, if we just have one life, where did that life come from? And why are we handed situations in our lives? Because you have to remember the 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 Hindu thought or the Vedantic thought has been sharpened. It has been um, analyzed. It's been discussed and debated continuously, and it's been adapted. It's been, kind of polished, and it's gone through this rigorous process. So, if someone said to a rishi, a sage, that there is only one life, the question would arise, well, then why does a certain person go through these things in their lives? Why does some person land in a poor house and another one in a rich house? Is it just really subject of chance? And if it is chance, then what is to say that you would go to that this one life is that means that anything that happens in this life is literally just by chance? Because then you'd have to agree that chance is continuous and not something that is, therefore you cannot say there is a God's will, or even that you even have free will, because it's all by chance. So that's the issues that I have um with the issue of just one life. In my opinion, we have many lives. But I say this with an important background. At one time, I believed we only had one life, and now I don't believe this. Now I believe we have we've had numerous of incarnations, and that seems to be the only real thing for me right now. It is subject to change. I mean, this is the whole point of evolving yourself. Um, so yeah, um, but yeah, this is it really. So let's move to the south now. But really nice discussion we've had today. Really great discussions we've had. Really enjoyed it so far. But let's get to the south. I promised that we will look at the south today. And why not? Okay, so our self is simply beyond all classifications of the three bodies, the three states of intellect, or the five koshas, the layers. To increase the confidence of the seeker, Adi Shankarji further explains the position of those who know the reality. Okay, so the next questions that are coming up, or the comments that are going to be made in Tattva board, is to establish this understanding. So what exists beyond those five layers of bliss? Yeah. What is beyond the body? What is beyond prana? What is beyond um, the intellect? What is beyond the mind? What is beyond bliss, or the happiness from um, the happiness of the pairs of opposites, or the pains of the pair of opposites, the sadness? So the explanation is given: just as the bangles, earrings, houses, etc., which are known as belonging to me, are different from self, so do the body, vital airs, mind, intellect, and ignorance, which are known as belonging to me, are different from self. And so the five layers, etc., which are known as mine and are different from the self, cannot be the same as the self. This is very true. If you think about it, anything that we say um, is mine. For example, if you say, this is my house, well, when you die, what happens to this house? It no longer remains yours. It will go either into a trust or it will go to your next of kin or whoever you put down in your will. That's what happens. Even the intellect, once this body goes, where's the intellect gone? It's gone. It's no longer a part of you. Um, Same thing with so everything else that we know that is different from the self, because they're all changing realities. They're all temporary. They are here one time, then they're gone tomorrow. Nothing is permanent. And we know that the self is the only thing that is permanent. The self, this Brahman, this pure awareness, is the only reality, the only thing that's real, because that is permanent. That awareness is there as the body ages, is there as the body dies, is there if the house is demolished, is there if the prana reduces in the body, it's there when the intellect reduces, it's there all the time. So this is really important to understand. So that which can never be discarded as external is our basic nature or self. So whatever we see as external from us is not the self. Now think about it. Even thoughts, emotions, they're all external. They're from our sense projections. The projections, sorry, from the senses. Whatever information we receive externally and we bring it internally is what influences us. So therefore, we know that whatever is external is not the basic nature, is not ourself. So then what are the characteristics of the self? What is the self? This is the question that Adi Shankarji answers or asks first in Tattva Bodh. The answer is this: it is the form of eternal consciousness bliss, Satchitananda. What is eternal or truth? That which remains the same in three times, present, past, and future, is eternal or the truth. That supreme reality is unshakable. Rather, we can understand it as that time shakes in front of it, place shakes in front of it. Yeah. So then, what is consciousness? That which has the nature of knowledge or of knowing is termed as consciousness or awareness. It makes us understand who we are. Then we understand that we are awareness or the witness, it's easier to understand who we are if we look at it from that level. Then what is bliss? That which has the nature of pleasure is called bliss. Yeah, which is uncaused, uncreated. To distinguish it from other pleasures, it is undecaying and complete in every respect as it ends all other desires. So when you have bliss, when you really experience bliss, then you get rid of all your other desires. Nothing else can top that. And this is true. If you've ever meditated on the formless awareness, the happiness and joy you feel from that, you never get it from anything else. Nothing ever gets close to it. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And it's so true. When you experience that joy, the the phenomena of the world looks what's it called when something isn't flavorful? It's bland compared to what bliss is felt. And we feel this during meditation or whenever we're contemplating or we're doing the practice of Shavana Manana Nididhyasana and we're experiencing ourselves as a formless awareness. Bliss is our natural state. Yeah. So then Adi Shankaraji confirms that thus a person should know that the nature of his self is Satchitananda, eternal consciousness bliss, or truth consciousness bliss. That's what is mentioned. So the self is entirely different from anything we might have experienced in the external world or in our dreams. There is nothing we can compare to it or we have observed. So an intellectual understanding of it will not suffice. It has to be experienced to be known. This is what makes us different to the neo-Advaitins. This is what makes us different from the non-duality or the pseudo non-dualists. This one thing, the intellectual understanding is not enough to know that you are the self. It has to be more. It has to be experienced. You have to understand fully that you are the self. It's a reality for you that you're living. So that's the main thing. So let's look at questions and then the next one is the origin of 24 elements. Let's see if we tackle that or we can just do kind of questions and answers. All right. Please explain about causal body. I've heard Avatar Supreme God has causal body, contains bliss kosha. Can you explain what you mean, Satyamine Nectar, by the avatar of Supreme God? And even if it has a causal body, it's not the self. So whoever this avatar is, again, is not the self in that definition. And as far as I'm concerned, is if we understand Advaita, then there is only the self. Therefore, the self does not have a causal body. Yeah. It's like tasting cardboard or styrofoam. Yeah, absolutely. That is the exact experience of when we taste when we come back into the world, the external world, after being in the internal formless awareness of bliss, and then we have to come back to this world, and it's pretty bland in comparison. So people who say God is formless, power, should know that something having power, quality, must be something like ether or light. Brahman is not only formless, but qualityless. So Brahman is real formless. Yes, I like what you say here. And it's a very nuanced point. So yes, by saying something is formless is not enough. It's nirgun. It's without qualities, without attributes. I completely agree with you. That is the real formless. I'm with you completely. Otherwise, people can confuse space or light or another thing according as formless. But no, that formless is without quality. Yeah, I agree. It's nirgun. Nirgun nirakar. This may help it is said that Ishvara is the totality of all causal bodies. This may be what Satyamine Nectar. Okay, yeah, sorry, yeah, that makes sense now. I was thinking maybe he was referring to uh, Krishna, because when I saw Supreme Avatar of Supreme, I was thinking of that. So yeah, okay, Vishnu is Brahman, even we are, but he reflects from Sud Maya Shakti. Our mind has ignorance. Again, so let me first answer this question, because I think that is more important. I want to explain that rather than anything else. Um, so basically, the causal body, it's really, really subtle. So, for example, if you look at when you're in deep sleep, you still have a body, because when you wake up, you know that your body has been rejuvenated. But it's kind of like darkness. It's kind of like there is a thin film, you could say, that you're made of. Um, that's what the causal body is. The body still functions. The prana is still there when you're in deep sleep. Your organs are being revitalized and is being rested. Therefore, you know that's occurring. And also, when you wake up from deep sleep, you say, "I've had a nice sleep." So when they say this supreme God, or whatever you mentioned, the avatar or Ishvara has a causal body, it means that he has a very, very extremely subtle body, something that cannot be seen, um, unless you are awakened in that sense, where you can see things like that. So Vishnu is Brahman, even we are, but he reflects from Shuddhmaya Shakti. Our mind has ignorance. I would say both. We also reflect that Shuddhmaya Shakti. And I would even say Vishnu, if Vishnu feels that he is separate, then he also has ignorance. So I would say it just really is dependent. So I wouldn't like to create a difference here in Shuddhmaya Shakti and, well, our mind and Vishnu's mind. At the end of the day, it's still a mind, it's still a layer that we have to transcend to be Brahman. So yeah, but I see where you're coming from, though. How is Ishvar Saguna Brahman, okay, have totality of all our causal body? Does he have a macro? So yeah, so basically it just means a shared being, I would say. It's Saguna Brahman just has qualities, right? And this quality is extremely subtle. Um, this body is extremely subtle. It the thing is, the way to understand Saguna Brahman is to see it as infused in nature and infused everywhere. So that's the best way to see Saguna Brahman, because it's qualities. It's within you, it's within everything that you see. That is Saguna Brahman. So that's what it means by the totality of all of our causal bodies. In deep sleep, we are all in touch probably with Saguna Brahman. And that's why we feel refreshed in the morning. So, but remember, these things, they're not things like Saguna Brahman as a concept, Maya as a concept, the five koshas, all these things. Like right now, we're learning about them and they extremely are true. But when we go towards the self, we have to let go of these things. They're only there to help us to understand what this body is made of, and then to transcend the body, because that's eventually where we have to go. And when I say body, I also include the mind in this. So that's what I'm addressing. But they are Saguna Ishvara having their own body, but from Brahmatic Drishti, it is Brahma. I see what you're saying, but again, I go back to the point of those things are important, but the most important thing is going to Brahman. So going to the ultimate level. Everything has a reason, everything has an existence, everything has a purpose. Absolutely. But we have to go beyond. And this is where I would say is a middle ground between us and, well, between pseudo Advaita and duality or Dvaita. as a philosophy. Adi Shankaraji advises to do bhakti of Saguna Brahman, but not thinking as separate from Brahman. So essentially, what you're worshipping is Brahman. Like, you're saying it yourself. Yeah. The advice was, if you look, read between the lines here. Read between the lines is the key. Now, yes, obviously, when we are doing bhakti of attributes, what do we do when we look beyond the attributes? We see Brahman. If you concentrate on the attributes so much, eventually you will see behind those attributes. So, yeah, do bhakti of Saguna Brahman, no problem. You can do bhakti of Brahman, Nirgun Brahman. The whole bhakti movement of Kabirji and Guru Nanak Dev Ji is more or less based on Nirgun Brahman. So you can do devotion of Nirgun Brahman. So it's really, but yeah, in the starting, it's important to do. In the beginning, it's important to, as you're building your foundation, do bhakti of the attributes, and then eventually move forward. Absolutely agree. This is a starting point where one must have Ishtevta in Advaita Vedanta. There are 5 Sagun Sakar Ishvara. There is, I do believe we should have an Ishtevta or a guru that we look up to, that we admire, that is the living embodiment of Brahman. Okay, so what we'll do now, let me see. Yeah, this is a long chapter, and we'll probably do this tomorrow. Okay. So, if anyone else has questions, you can write it in the comments. And thank you for the likes on YouTube. If you've not liked this video, please do like it. That'd be great. Awesome. God is one. How true is that? Is that a question about how true is if God is one? But yeah, some interesting conversations today. Interesting points that we've touched. I'm going to end this in 10 minutes, I think. And then we'll end this live. I probably won't be on tomorrow. And then Thursday, I should be on another live. And if you've not followed me on Discord, if you're not on my Discord server, do check that out. I'm on there. And then the other thing is Saturdays I have a meditation class at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The details are all in my bio stuff. So, but yeah, in the show notes or video description, I do have everything written. So, what do you think is the deal with Neo Advaita folks who just suddenly awaken? Could it be the fruition of forgotten previous lifetimes of sadhana? I don't think there's a sudden awakening. There's just an intellectual understanding that occurs, which gives across this idea that one is suddenly awakened. Oh yeah, I suddenly know that I am the self, and there's only the self. There's no thing experiencing nothing, and all this nonsense that comes about from it. Um, I don't think it's the fruition of forgotten previous lifetimes of sadhana for this one point, and that is that anyone that has really done sadhana in their previous lifetimes will see the benefit of their sadhana and the point of having a practice and the point of having um, a spiritual, um, having spiritual terms, having spiritual philosophies, and the importance of those things. So I feel, in my opinion, anyone that says otherwise and they're limiting their understanding or limiting the scriptures or their teachers is just not good at all. Um, Therefore, are they really awakened if they forgot their previous lifetimes of sadhana too? Like that's the biggest question. Um, but with them suddenly awakening or feeling that they've awakened, it's just intellectual understanding, and again a pseudo intellectual understanding, because for me, to be truly awakened, you see the value in having a teacher or having the scriptures, having your foundation based on the scriptures or your guru or your teacher. Those things are really important. And therefore, when they turn around and say none of that is important or that there is no karma, well, then how do you explain this life that you're going through and all the issues that you face in life or the joys that you face in life? It is because of your karma. So there's certain things that they say and do, which I think, bye, Sue, take care. Um, there's, you can't, in my opinion, you can't have this sudden awakening and ignore all those elements. So yeah, and also it brings across a certain psychosis, I feel, and a lack of compassion, and that's something I don't agree with. When someone has a problem, you can't tell them there's no self, there's no problem, there's nothing is happening to nothing. It simply is. You can't say that to someone who's grieving over someone or grieving over a relationship that's just ended or they're going through bankruptcy or something like that. It's just not right to do that. So yeah, that's my opinion, obviously. What will happen after moksha or after liberation? Um, the answer is just in me not saying anything. We're still looking for an event to occur after moksha, after liberation, after freedom. How can we say something will happen after moksha? Then, if we say something happens after moksha, that means that we're not free. For someone that's experienced moksha, for them, there is no before or after. There's simply the now. And they live their life, they exhaust everything they have to, and they live fully integrated in this moment with the world. That's how someone functions after moksha. Or a beautiful way to express this is in Zen. And in Zen Buddhism, there's that saying of before enlightenment, chopping wood, fetching water. After enlightenment, chopping wood, fetching water. Same thing. Um, sorry. You don't think that their everyday existence has changed in some way are they just bullshitting to some extent? Yeah, their everyday existence has not changed. So what it is, they live in this false notion that they've awakened. So everything will be looked at through those rose-tinted glasses. The rose-tinted glasses of which they deny they have, but it's clear. And even when you look at them, there is a certain vacuum. So yeah, the everyday existence will change according to the newfound knowledge or of no knowledge that they've acquired. So in my opinion, yeah, there is going to be a change to their everyday existence, but probably not for the better. It will just be like putting band-aid over a gushing wound, a deep wound. More needs to be done. Um, so yeah, you can't put a band-aid on it. You'll have to get help. Um, you know. So are they BSing to some extent? Yeah, they are. They know they're BSing. Of course, they know they are. They clearly know they are. You know, because they know that they know that it's they know that what they're going through internally is not complete. And I say this because I kind of know and I sympathize with them in what they do. I understand it. It's appealing. To be honest, it'd be easier for me to just be a neo Advaita um, and speak on those matters. It's much easier than going through these foundational texts of Advaita. Trust me, isn't it just easier to say there's no self, there's no book? Imagine that's just your answer. You don't have any other answer to give. It's much easier. But instead, I have to face questions like, um, you know, let's see, what is the, what is the, um, please explain the causal body. Like I have to think of a reason, I have to come up with an answer based on the foundational text and also from my own experience to address that question. But it's much easier for me to answer that question by saying, there's no causal body, there's no avatar, there's no supreme God, there's no bliss kosha, there's no layers. It's very easy for me to just say that, which I do sometimes when I'm tired of explaining things. Yeah, but nice questions. I know, we're all trying to get a handle on the phenomenon. Trust me. The Atma, the all-pervading consciousness, is everywhere, but Atma expresses as Jeev. Even though Atma expresses as Jeev, it is still the same Atma, the untouched one, the non-dual one. Yeah, to make this a bit more simpler to understand is that the Jeev, because of our unsharpened intellect and unpolished intellect, the Jeev mistakes itself as the body. But when we polish our intellect through the knowledge of what is permanent and temporary, then event or real and unreal, sat and asat, nitya and anitya, then we understand that actually the Jeev is the Atma and the Atma is Brahman. So, yeah. But I think that's just an easier way to understand it. Is being dispassionate good because passion is materialistic world that takes us from the truth? No. Well, I would say having passion is also important. Dispassion is important. Dispassion, I'm assuming you mean detachment. Having detachment is important, but attachment itself isn't wrong. Or passion is not wrong. If I didn't have for example, I have a passion to talk about Advaita in the materialistic world. I'm on YouTube. So it has positives. Then there's also detachment that, okay, whatever I may be sharing on YouTube is going to be, I'm not going to look at the results as soon as I turn this off. Right now, I'm telling you, I have passion to ask you to like this video or like this live stream. So in the moment, I'm telling you something, but there is a detachment within me that, okay, if I only get 5 likes, it's fine. If I get 10 likes, it's fine. If I get 100 likes, it's fine. It is what it is. So we we have to be in both. We have to understand whatever takes us away from being that formless awareness is essentially not going to give us much benefit. So nothing is good or bad. Nothing can take you away from the truth either. The truth is always here. The truth does not disappear. We just veil it with our expectations, with our desires. That's all. So passion isn't wrong in materialistic world. It's fine. But just don't let it overshadow the self or the truth. Do you think saying Hinduism has one God is a bad idea, but saying Hinduism has one ultimate reality is a good idea? Yes. Not that these things are bad or good. I'm looking more on the element of being precise. For me, Hinduism saying that we have one ultimate reality is more precise and more directly to what we understand the truth to be than saying we have one God. Because the moment we say we have one God, we're assuming that the God that is in the Bible or in the other Abrahamic traditions is the one that we're worshipping when we're not. It's clearly different. Um, the God that's mentioned there is Saguna Brahman, if at the max, but it's not Nirgun. Yeah. So, and also, we say that this ultimate reality is something that you can experience as you are right this minute, right this second. So, Hinduism is better off saying there's one ultimate reality than saying there's one God. I think saying there's one God is because we're not monotheistic and we're not polytheistic either. We don't believe in many gods. We only believe in one supreme reality that has manifested itself as the many, and that's it. Very simple. But very beautiful question. I really like that. That is an ultimate question. Um, right, let me look at TikTok. Thank you, Dimitri G. Thank you, and thank you, Satyaman Nektar Shivoham to you too. Now, let me answer some questions on TikTok. I'm still on YouTube. If you haven't liked this stream, this live stream, like it. Give me your comments. I'm open to them right now. I've not gone off, so although I said 10 minutes, like 15 minutes ago, doesn't matter. What is time? There is no time. And there isn't really any time. And like I said, I love this stuff. It's amazing. So Nick Nosh asks, do you believe in Jesus Christ? What is there to believe? I don't get it. I don't understand these questions. I'm really bad. Wrong audience, I would say. Yeah, hook a brother up. um. Hello, Miss Ambrosia Kiss. How can one resonate on the same frequency as that which is Brahman? Wonderful question. You're already resonating as that same frequency. The difference is you've got to understand that you are this. This is the only difference, is understanding that you are Brahman. That's it. And that everything else is it's still Brahman, but it's still not Brahman. Yeah. So, but what you're probably looking for is some practical tips, and that is, right now, just watch your thoughts and understand that the watcher of the thought is Brahman. That's how simple it is, and you're at the same frequency. That awareness, when you look at the watcher, that awareness is boundless, limitless, formless, shapeless. It's everywhere, all pervading, and that's the same frequency. There's no higher or lower frequency in Brahman either. This Brahman is just the same. So yeah, but nice question, and hello, and thank you for giving the question. So consciousness is what shows us we are Brahman. Yep, awareness is what shows. Awareness is Brahman. Like consciousness is Brahman. I would say, to be more precise. You know. So, I think we've come to the end of this. I will probably end it here. But it was a really nice conversation. I am still editing my first conversations with the bearded mystic with Yam Socks. I'm still going through the editing. I did quite a bit yesterday and today. I'm hoping that by Friday it will be up. So if you are, if you want to help my content, then I would say join my Patreon page, and for $10 a month, you will get the full video of the conversations with the bearded mystic and guided meditations. And then at the same time, because I am going to release the clips of the conversations. Well, they're going to come up on my podcast and on YouTube, but it's going to be only like 15 minutes, maybe even less than that. It's just going to be clips, really. So if you want the full conversation, it's best to go on my Patreon, and they're really interesting conversations. Well, one has been, and so yeah, but really nice spending time with you all. I love you all immensely, and I will definitely see you all very soon. I will let you know in the Discord server what I'm doing, and I'll let you know on TikTok and YouTube somehow what I'll be doing. So, yeah, thank you very much. Take care, everyone, and stay safe. And we'll see you soon. Okay, bye.